National Bowlers Association Summer Tour on ESPN is being brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Tenactin. If the burning and itching of athlete's foot keeps coming back, reach for Tenactin, the brand doctors and pharmacists recommend most. And by Phillips 66 Super Clean Gasolines. Good things for cars and the people who drive them. And now let's meet tonight's top 5 finalists. Starting from the number 5 position and making his 4th consecutive appearance in the championship round, it's Tony Westlake of Edmond, Oklahoma. His opponent in match number 1 is powerful Jim Pencak of Mayfield Heights, Ohio. Looking for his 5th career PBA title and beginning tonight's action from the middle of the pack is 35-year-old David Ozio of Vidor, Texas. Qualifying in the runner-up position is talented Ron Palombi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania. And nailing down the top spot this week is 30-year-old Dave Ferraro of Kingston, New York. He'll need to win just 1 game to capture his 5th career PBA championship and $18,000 in first-place prize money. And welcome, everyone, to Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin for the championship round finals of the $125,000 LaMode Open. Hi, everyone. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Red Carpet Lanes. And although Tony Mandrich has yet to sign with the Packers, working with me once again this evening is a man who could obviously fill his shoes with no problem, PBA Hall of Famer Mike Durbin.
Well, thank you, Denny. And I definitely work for less than $2 million a year, too.
All right. Now that we've got the contract straightened out, let's get back to bowling. As far as Westlake and Ferraro are concerned, at the risk of sounding redundant, these guys are on the show every week.
Well, they certainly are, Dan. It's 4 weeks in a row for Tony, 3 out of 4 for Dave Ferraro. I think it's just a case of 2 quality players on a fantastic hot streak for both of them.
Tony Westlake in a position here this evening that if he would qualify next week, he would tie the all-time record for championship round appearances in succession, 5 held by Johnny Petraglia. I asked Tony earlier this evening if he had any chance at all at making 4, and this was his response.
No, I never dreamed I'd make 4 in a row. I think everybody's goal is just to make 1 in a row is great. Making 4 in a row has been unbelievable. It's been tiring. I haven't had much time to myself at all the last 6 weeks, and I'm just glad I'm here.
And, of course, also glad to be here as well is powerful Jim Pencak of Mayfield Heights, a player that I think is just about ready to walk through the door as far as the champions are concerned.
Well, it may be, Denny. You know, he bowled in a league with my son in Chagrin Falls several years ago. Jim has always had the ability to string strikes. His problem has been staying away from the open frames. He's got to win 4 games today, and he's got to throw a lot of strikes and, like I say, stay away from those open frames.
Concerning Dave Ozio, proven, tested, experienced, a player starts from the number 3 position. He lost from the top seed earlier this summer. He certainly wants a win.
Well, he won once last year. He's looking for his 5th win. We talked to him earlier today. He seemed very, very confident, says he's had to overcome a lot of adversity, make a lot of subtle changes, and he thinks he can do it for 3 more games tonight.
2 words basically describe the year that Ron Palombi has had: consistent and frustrating. He's made the championship round finals, the top 24, on 14 occasions, yet this is only his 2nd appearance in the final 5.
And it's his 1st appearance in the final 5 since the 2nd week of the season, since Torrance. He had a streak there where he went 7 consecutive weeks where he made the top 24 and wasn't able to make the top 5. You know, his goal, Dan, is to win $100,000, and in order to win $100,000, you've got to win championships. So he's putting pressure on himself.
Psychologically, what is Dave Ferraro thinking about at this point? He's been the top seed now twice this summer, but he is 0-3 in the championship game here in 1989. Does that have an effect on his play tonight?
Well, I think it has an effect on his mind. He can't put those things out of his mind, yet Dave is an extremely confident bowler. He gets up there and he just feels he can beat anybody, and he's proved that he can do it. He's got to win 1 game tonight to get his 5th title.
All right, so Ferraro up on top in the championship round position in the top seed spot. But before we get to that title game, the opening match coming up next here from Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, featuring red-hot Tony Westlake and Jim Pencak. Back with more right after this. And welcome back, everyone, to Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Opening game of the $125,000 LaMode Classic. A familiar face on ESPN this summer. Tony Westlake starts the match. Championship round pair 15 and 16.
Well, isn't this the Tony Westlake show, Denny?
Yeah, pretty much it is, yeah. The man with 4 consecutive championship round appearances, 1 victory. And on a hot streak right now, on a tear. Has struggled during the practice session and starts out with a Brooklyn. That's an indication that he's obviously not lined up on the championship pair.
Well, he told us earlier that he was lost. He was dead lost in his price. I said, are the lanes any different? He says, no, I can't strike on either one. So I think he needs to move a little deeper myself. Deeper, I mean further left toward the third arrow.
Pencak cuts it off a little short, but trips the 4-pin with his opening offering.
And he is playing in extremely deep, in around the third arrow or deeper. We'll get a look at his style. 5 steps here. Watch the high backswing, and real quick he gets it back there. Now the short pivot step there. He drives through, nice slide, and snaps that follow through in. Big man getting bigger.
I think snap is the key word there. Really rips it at the bottom of the swing. Tries to create some area, and when he gets his kind of a ball reaction, well, he can lead the big tournaments. He led the U.S. Open this year. Comes out of the gate and slashes the rack with a double on 15.
And I was just thinking, I'm looking at his shirt. It's wringing wet already. If he happens to go 4 games tonight, he may need to change shirts.
Well, change of jersey perhaps sometime along the way. So a quick double for Pencak, who opens up a 10-pin lead over Tony Westlake. Tony rifles it up about the 11 board and comes back with a strike.
Well, that lane seems to be holding for him. And he said earlier he was trying to hook the ball, and he stopped that. You see the familiar style of Tony Westlake, very short first step, and then basically it's 4 steps after that. Head very steady. Look at the backswing. A little over shoulder height. Now watch the follow through. Snaps it up. Good shot, leaves that 10. His wife, Mary, looks on.
Nice adjustment from the last shot on that lane.
I don't know, he struck the one before.
Oh, come on. Went Brooklyn the last trip and was lucky to get away with the next. Soft 10 this trip. What a remarkable run, though, for Westlake, who now has already won better than $87,000 this year. Been a torrid pace this summer and uses all of the lane to pick up the 10-pin.
There's never a doubt. He had it all the way.
Jimmy Pencak, 30 years of age, 5'10", 195, and played some high school football. You see right now the pressures of playing on national television. He'll be soaked through and through by the time this one's all over.
Well, that's 2 in a row he's tripped out on that lane. As his wife Liz looks on. She looks a little nervous, doesn't she?
Yep. Excited to be here. I made the trip in earlier today. Mayfield Heights, obviously a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio.
And he used to be from Richmond Heights.
Yeah.
Richmond Heights has an outstanding wrestling team every year. Well, he gave that one room.
Gave it room, and you could see those white out-of-bounds stakes out there about the 7 or 8 board all the way down the lane. You get it out there about right of 7 or 8, and it's going to straighten out on you.
It doesn't come back right. 1, 2, 4. He wants to get it to the left of the head pin, then have the ball run down and cover all 3 pins.
Perfect. So no problem with the 1-2-4. Pencak spares up in the 4th, and he's opened up an 8-pin lead over Tony Westlake. A very good match here in game number 1. We'll be back with more from Red Carpet Lanes right after this. Lucky number of 13 after the opening round, but boy, ended up number 1 when it was all said and done.
And it looks like he only had 3 leaders in this tournament, Palombi, Pencak, and Ferraro.
Tony Westlake starting in 47th. It was an uphill climb, and last night went down to the final game in the position round, and old Tony shot 264 against Mark McDowell to solidify his position on the telecast. Unleashes a shot and then just exit stage left for the 5-pin.
We've seen that strike a lot of times for Tony.
Never ceases to amaze me. You watch the professionals in warm-up, just a couple of shots before the telecast begins. They look as lost as you could possibly get, and
come right out and start throwing strikes.
I used to be that way.
Did you?
Only I stayed lost.
Is it the concentration? Does it
I never know.
rise?
I never did figure it out once the lights went on.
You bowled in the dark for many years, my friend. Oh, that one crosses over. And lucky to avoid perhaps more than just the 3-6-10.
He's really struggling on lane 15. Brooklyn, light in the pocket, and then the 3-6-10. Very interesting shot here from above Tony. See the left arm. Now watch him pull the left arm back. Wrist kind of cupped there as he let it go.
A sigh of relief. And so it's an 8-pin match here midway through game number 1. Dave Ozio qualifying number 3. Ron Palombi Jr. in the 2 slot. And the top seed this week, Dave Ferraro.
Nice shot. Snap that weak 10 out of there. The 2 wives sitting next to one another. I suppose they talk back and forth. Shot of Jimmy throwing the shot here. Watch the follow through. Snaps it right up here. Now watch the 6-pin. Second from the right. You're going to see it go to the sideboard, come back out and get that 10. Anytime you see that, you know that the player had good lift, good fingers, what the bowlers call, in the shot.
Almost looks like he's got a little hold area out there as well. If he can swing it and tug it a little bit and still hit the pocket and carry, he's going to have a big night.
Well, as soon as you say that, the 1-2-8-10 pops up. Twice in a row, he's left in that, missed a headpin on the left lane. We talked in the open, you know, that he has to avoid these open frames. He hasn't been tapped yet. He wants to get the ball to the left of the headpin here and send the headpin right into the 10. The ball will take out the 2 and the 8. Not enough. Not enough. So he's open there. And gives the lead to Westlake sitting on the bench. Boy, the left lane seems to be the key for both players here, Ted.
Westlake goes from trailing by 8 to leading by 4 after the miscue. Let's see if he can jump on the opportunity here.
Gives it right back to 3-6-7. Tony's trying to play a very tight line, throw the ball very straight, right down the 10th or 11th board. And he just gets the ball left here. That one hit about 12. And going high right now, and he gets no good break. Has to hit the 3-pin thin and slide it over. This very makeable split. Hit it 2-fold. Gives it right back to Pencak. So it's just unable, unlike Tony Westlake, unable to take advantage of an open frame from an opponent.
So both players open up in the 6th, and now it's back to a 10-pin advantage for Jim Pencak. And the left-hand lane has supposedly been the tough lane for Tony Westlake. It appears to be the tighter of the 2.
He moved in a little bit then. Still went high. Tried to make an adjustment. The ball still did exactly what the player's been talking about. The ball hooked early. In other words, it hooked too soon on the lane for him, and he just doesn't know what to do. If he gets it any more room, it doesn't come back. For the 6-10.
It's really a catch-22 situation when you don't have any swing, and if you set it a little short, it hooks early.
That's the position he's in, as we can see right here. See, he moves in toward that 3rd arrow. It's about the 13th, 14th board there, and the ball bites right there. You can see it. Bites at about 35 feet right there, which is just too soon.
So it's been a struggle in the 6th for both players. A 10-pin lead right now for Jimmy Pencak when we return to Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Friday on ESPN.
Ah, yes, wonderful gentleman there representing LeMode Activewear, Alan Gieler, a vice president, and you won't find a funnier gentleman in the crowd this evening. Having a little fun. He was asking for makeup just a couple of minutes ago.
Right, he says, I need some makeup for that bald head up there.
Great host. Marvelous gentleman who has lots of fun with the bowlers, an outstanding golfer in his own right, but enjoys the sports world. No question about that. All right, back to live action for Pencak. He leads by 10. Would love to double up and extend that.
Doesn't trip the 4 this time. Again, a little bit short with that shot. Didn't get it out to where he wanted to. And leaves the 4 pin. Got a nip and tuck match right here, you know. Not high scores, but it's certainly close.
Led the Seagram's Coolers U.S. Open earlier this year at Boulevard Bowl in Edmond, Oklahoma, only to lose Mike Aulby in the championship game, 195 to 178.
Open frames undid him there, too, Dan. He had several open frames in that game, 2 or 3. So we see his form from above. Looks pretty good right there. There's the scoreboard, 10 pins exactly. Both players on spares, 3 frames to go. Better shot. Boy, and it snapped. Miss the head pin, throw it where you want to, and it goes high. Right now, what's going through his mind is, what do I do in this lane? And he's got to finish on that lane.
Mike, one of the characteristics that we've seen throughout the summer is the first game and a half, the players really struggle with the lanes because they're changing with virtually every shot. Then once the conditioner settles in, they seem to be able to get lined up off of it. But what do you do in that case? Do you pull out a ball that maybe hooks medium and throw it up the second arrow and just try and get 9 spare?
Most of the players, I think, will try and increase the speed and maybe the loft a little bit to hold the ball into the pocket and just force it down there. And usually what happens then is if you do hit the pocket, you get tapped. And biggest shot of the week coming up for Tony right now. He's had good success on lane 16 for the most part. 1 errant shot there in the 6th frame. As we see the light shaker here. Ball, remember, the 1 pin has to hit the 2, and it barely got it there with that strike.
Old wall shot there on lane 16. The mystery lane, though, for Westlake has been this one right here.
Moved in. Nice adjustment. See him move in a little more loft, a little more speed, which is what you're talking about.
Ball held pocket, flush for the double, and this one's turned around a little bit. He now leads by 2.
And we're going to see him from above. Well, no, we don't. But watch the loft. Gets it further out on the lane and threw it just a little bit harder. And it just barely holds. Watch the 4 and the 7. The 2 just clipped the 4 as it went by. A lot of room. Ooh!
Well, you have to trust it on the PBA Tour if you want to come up a winner, and that was savings and trust on that shot.
I'm telling you, the head pin barely hit the 2 pin on that. It was almost missed it as it was going by. Watch it here. The ball's turning very late, coming in. Watch the head pin. Just nicked the 2 in the bucket. That's called a bucket crumbler there.
All right, so a strike in the 9th. 223, a possibility if Jimmy Pencak would go all the way. And a possible 225 for Westlake.
This is for the lead. What a pretty shot that was.
Oh, he stayed with it beautifully, Mike. When it left his hand, he liked it all the way.
All the way. What I like, though, is he makes this tremendous shot under pressure. His best of the game, right over about the 16th, 17th board. The ball finishes hard at the end, right solid, as he didn't get too excited there because he knows he needs 1 more. All right. And what you can see him thinking right away, 1 more. More room. Got that light shot again.
Well, that one came back from nowhere, and Westlake realizes the gravity of the situation now. He's going to have to at least double.
He's going to have to strike twice.
Pencak takes a scan of the scoreboard, realizes with an X here he's at 223. He now leads by 18, and so for Westlake, it would have to be at least a double and 9 if he strikes here. Well, cut it off a little short, yeah. The major work is done, though. He's going to force Westlake to double a game of 220 and a nice comeback for Pencak, who strung together 3 strikes in a very pressurized situation.
We know Tony can strike under the heat. Can he do it on lanes that he's struggling on? High. 4-7. He wanted to make sure he got it up there with good speed, and he just pulled it.
So Pencak realizes he'll get to bowl at least one more game, and he's basically defeated the hottest player on the tour at this moment.
Well, Tony, the last 3 weeks had been first, the second, and the third. I was thinking maybe you go fourth tonight.
Tony Westlake will now move to $91,700 on the 89 season, and now the big question, can he go to Cheektowaga throughway lanes next week for the PBA Senior Touring Pro Doubles Championship and coax his partner into the championship round to tie Johnny Petraglia's record?
Well, he's got two tasks there. I mean, he has to make the top 18. There's only 18 finalists on both sides, and then they're paired up, 1 with 1, 2 with 2. Then he has to bowl well and hope his partner bowls well in order to make it. So it's going to be a tough task.
So the dream for Westlake finishes up early. 220 to 202, the win for Jim Pencak. And when we return, we'll take a look at average builders. Established this week at Red Carpet Lanes, all bowlers averaging just a fraction over 200. The righties and the lefties about 4 pins apart. But look at the numbers to qualify in cash.
Yeah, kind of low this week. Only 204 to get some money out of this tournament, and only 210 to make our top 24. So players had a tough time this week.
Size of the field a little smaller as of late at 143, and our qualifying leader Ron Palombi Jr. at 41.48. He actually led the first 3 rounds. It looked like he might lead the entire event, but he did slow down a little in match play.
Yeah, he still qualified second, so he bowled well all the way through.
Pretty steady all week long for Palombi, and there you see the high games of the week. David White shooting 300 in the qualifying. He needed every pin of that because he qualified 23rd, only made the finals by like 2 or 3 pins.
Well, taking advantage of that big game when you get it.
And a player on our telecast this evening, David Ozio, with a big 289 game. So only one perfecto here this week at Red Carpet Lanes, but a very competitive tournament, a tournament where many players had an opportunity to finish in the final 5. And the players that were successful this week, without question, utilized the loft most of the week. That was the key word here at Red Carpet Lanes, and our Mike Durbin now takes a look at the loft and how it's able to lift your average on Average Builders coming up next.
If you'll notice on tonight's telecast, all 5 of our finalists are getting the ball well over to the foul line onto the lane. And that's what I thought I'd like to talk about for tonight's average builder. That is, getting the ball out onto the lane. Several different questions come to my mind when I want to talk about this. The first one is, well, why do so many proprietors have signs in their bowling centers that say, don't loft the bowling ball? The second question that comes to my mind is, well, how far is too far to get the ball out on the lane? And the third question that comes to my mind is, well, why do we need to get the ball out onto the lane at all? And the last question is, well, what's the proper distance to get the ball out onto the lane? Let's take them one at a time. The reason proprietors have signs in their bowling centers that say, don't loft the bowling ball, is quite simply because they don't want us taking divots out of their lanes. You see, a lane is made up of maple wood and pine. The first 16 feet, right out to right in here, is maple wood. Maple is a very hard wood. Then there's a mixture in here of maple and pine, and we get to here, the rest of the lane is pine, which is a very soft wood. Now, if I throw the ball out on the lane and it lands on this pine, it's going to put a dent in this lane, a dent that's very expensive to repair. So obviously, getting the ball this far out on the lane is too far. But I think we can go beyond even that. Anytime I throw the ball out on the lane and it has a trajectory that goes up and down, I'm getting the ball too far out onto the lane. What I'm striving to get to is an even trajectory, kind of like an airplane gliding in for a landing. That's what we want to get. Well, why is it necessary to get the ball out onto the lane at all? Well, there's 2 answers to that, I believe. The first is that if I don't get the ball out onto the lane and lay it down at the foul line, I think I have the tendency to let go of the ball with the thumb and fingers at the same time. I kind of baby it along. And if I make an effort to get the ball out onto the lane, it enhances my chances of getting my thumb out first and my fingers lifting the bowling ball. But there's a second reason, the reason that most of our pros are using tonight, and that is, as I get the ball out onto the lane, it delays the hook and makes the ball go further down the lane before it starts to break. And that's what our 5 finalists are doing tonight. They're trying to delay that hook so that the ball will break more at the back end of the lane. Well, what's the proper distance that I want to get the ball out onto the lane? And by the way, this lane that I'm walking on has no oil on it, so I'm doing no damage to the lane at all. I believe that the proper distance is somewhere right around 18 inches to 30 inches, right in this general area here. And the 2 bowlers on our telecast tonight that I think come closest to that are Tony Westlake, who's been so red hot lately, and the bowler coming up in the next game, David Ozio. Well, I can just hear someone out there saying right now, well, Mike, no matter what I do, I just can't get the ball over the foul line. I can't do it. Well, I have a little training exercise for you that I think will help you learn to get the ball the proper distance out onto the lane. All it takes is a little towel, just like this towel here, and you lay it out on the lane, just a couple inches over the foul line like this, depends on the size of the towel right there. And now I'm simply going to try and deliver a bowling ball on the lane without hitting the towel. And by the way, about 30% of our league bowlers, when they first try this, are going to hit the towel. Now I'll just come back and get the bowling ball here. And all I'm thinking about is just making a normal shot, but I don't want to hit that towel. Remember, when we get the ball out on the lane, we don't want it to go up and down. We want a nice, even trajectory, like an airplane gliding in for a landing. And the distance that we're looking for is somewhere around 18 to 30 inches. We'll see you again next week when we'll have another Average Builder.
And while we're on the subject of planes, a couple of top guns coming up next year at Red Carpet Lanes. Jim Pencak and the Wizard of Oz, David Ozio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A few words on reading for success.
1 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, the 1-hour highlight show as well. At 8 p.m., defending champion Jeff Sluman. I wonder if Cal Cavecchio will play. He just had that the baby girl, Brittany. And, of course, Seve Ballesteros will be there. Greg Norman. Will he ever win a major championship, perhaps this year?
Well, he has won one, Denny. He won the British Open.
Yep. He should be about 4 or 5 or 6 down the line, shouldn't he? Jim Pencak with a 220-202 victory over Tony Westlake in game number 1. Now has David Ozio next in line.
Right through the heart and leaves only the 3-pin. A good break.
He's in that danger zone, though. He knows if he throws it a touch too far to the right, it will not finish. So you can see him kind of squeezing a little bit on that left-hand lane.
David Ozio, who's coming up as we watch Pencak shoot the 3-pin, left his rosin bag over on the practice pair, couldn't find it, almost panicked, and then asked Art Trask to get it for him, and he got it for him. David's the type of guy, he's a perfectionist. He wants everything the same way every time. Trying to throw the ball slowly, and does, but gives it a little too much room, and leaves only the 2-pin. Kind of a safe shot at first.
He mentioned that speed would be a key factor for him here this evening.
From Vidor, Texas. Switches balls to shoot the 2-pin. Wants something to go straight at the spares. That went straight enough as it hit the thumb hole.
That one was backing up.
Yeah. Classic style of David Ozio. 5-step player. Very short first step. Pushes it out. A little early at this point. Right at the top. See, it's right in time right there. Perfectly in time. Nice long slide. Pretty bowler. Love to watch him bowl.
Beautiful to watch. And the results are normally pretty good. Well, this lane has been tough for our first 2 contestants, and Ozio gets a bit of a taste, leaves the 2-5 as Lisa and Heather are a bit apprehensive at this stage.
As Heather realizes she's on television right now.
She doesn't care if he wins or loses right now, right?
switches balls again with the 2-5. It's a good thing he went straight there. He backed up to make it. Looked like my ball there, I'll tell you.
A couple of spares for Ozio, and Pencak decides that he wants a fresh set of pins on the right-hand lane.
And again, to cover our re-rack rule for our viewers at home, that the players are allowed only 2 per game. Unusual that he would take 1 in the second frame here without a strike up at all.
Small check mark on our scoreboards reflects when the players have opted for a re-rack.
New graphic there.
I like the breakdown. Gives you an idea of what they've done on each lane. Going back to trying to trip the 4. He was successful in game 1 with that shot, but the 4-pin stands.
A little tight all the way. He couldn't complain about his carry that first game. He had a lot of variety of strikes, and not too many of them solid. His carry that first game reminded me of our scorekeeper, Joe Berardi's carry. As we get that overhead view again. Finishing well behind. Look at how close the ball is to his ankle as he lets it go. And all the pros are that way.
Almost looks like he's off balance at the line from that angle, doesn't it?
It looks like they all are. I think it's just the angle of the camera.
Real tilt to the shoulders. Dispels that myth of being square at the line. Oh, boy, was that a dandy. His best shot, I think, other than that first strike in the 10th on the left-hand lane.
Now David's had 2 warm-up shots, so to speak. Now he needs to get his act together. Pretty shot right there. Heavier fingers, but still the soft speed. That's a tender touch there where you're trying to lift the ball with heavy fingers, but maintain slow speed.
Yeah, because the characteristic is probably to cut it off a little bit short in that situation.
Or to accelerate the speed, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. Grab it at the bottom. But,
and that's what David likes to do. He likes to throw the ball a little firmer. This is an unnatural shot to throw it this slow. That's the hurry. No fingers that time. He just didn't get the same lift he did on lane 16.
2-4-5 stands on lane 15. No double. If he'd have struck there, he could have opened up a lead in this match. Ron Palombi Jr. of Erie, Pennsylvania, qualifying in the number 2 position. Our top seed from Kingston, New York. Dave Ferraro, the second time he's been top seed in the past 4 weeks. And Ozio with a nice conversion of the 2-4-5. So both players settling in here in game number 2 from Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The finals of the $125,000 LaMode Classic.
Very unusual shot we're going to show you right here from the top. Same bowler. I think it's the same bowler, yeah. On top, David Ozio. They look the same, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, though.
Yeah,
the one on the right was a strike, and the one on the left wasn't. But what it is that subtle hand release that sometimes even the most experienced eye can't see the difference, but you can feel that you didn't do it exactly right.
You know, one of the things that you can look at there was the angle of the shoulders and the arm swing. And on the right-hand lane, he was throwing the ball right, and it hooked back. On the left-hand lane, he was better squared, and that's why it didn't hook, and he leaves the 2-4-5. This one's trying to come back, and the 2-8 remains on the right-hand lane for Pencak.
And no easy spare there. That's the adjustment for the 4-pin. He was a little tight the last time, gave it a hair more room this time, and it didn't make it. Now, that conditioner could be carrying down the lane now, Dan, and causing the ball not to finish quite as much. As Liz looks on, she looks just as nervous this game as she did the last game.
Well, at least she doesn't have her eyes closed. There is a moment of doubt from time to time when you're shooting that 2-8 and you don't know whether to shoot it cross lane or shoot it from the left, and it really is a bit of a guessing game.
Usually I try and shoot it off my strike target.
Do you?
If that conditioner is carrying down the lane, then the adjustment is very, very difficult, because if you move right, it has a tendency to go high. Like that. Oh! says, all right.
There you can see a little more speed. He was hoping that one might hold pocket, and he talks to himself on the way back. It obviously did, and then he gets a break with a Brooklyn.
And again, around the third arrow, but just hooking too soon over to the Brooklyn side. 3-pin goes to the wall, and Mike Aulby be proud of that strike.
Our feature this evening is on Mr. Aulby. You'll want to stay tuned for that. Oh, this time. All right, now you talk about the speed. You get a little too slow with it, and it goes right through the nose, leaves the 3-6-10, and I guess that's the one characteristic that you have to be careful of.
It's a matter of execution, and David is not executing. He knows that he's just not throwing. He's made one quality shot so far in 5 frames. Trouble. Ooh, what a break. What a break to get that.
A 4-pin match thanks to this.
There was no way to make it at that point. Somehow they bounced around and knocked them all down. Oh, thank you, he says.
Pull out some more of that hair, right? Well, let's see if he can bounce back here and extricate himself from trouble. Midway through this one. That one's slow and through the nose, and he leaves the baby split. 10-pin thought about leaving, but wiggles and stays.
And in my opinion, he's got to forget about this soft speed business and just go ahead and rip it and let those fingers fly and make his natural shot here and stop trying to throw the ball so slow and finesse it in there.
Well, he had success earlier this week, but not necessarily the case here tonight.
Now he's really opened the door.
So an open in the 6th for Ozio, his first of the match, and Pencak quickly leads by 17. Could be 27 if he X's here in the 6th.
He can put Ozio away with a couple strikes here. Shot that was. Heavy fingers that time. He really caught all of that one. Watch the loft. And he did that all with his fingers. And you see the result.
That label's turning over, isn't it? And he knew it the moment he let it go. Big shot, and could move to 37 pins ahead and really close the door on Mr. Ozio with a strike here in the 7th.
Gave it room. Didn't get the break, but no trouble. Nice adjustment for the Brooklyn. Again, more loft and further right. It's hard to get the ball solid in that pocket.
Well, you could sense he kind of gauged up for that shot, too. Amped it up a little bit, gave it a little more room, and still got it back.
Throwing the same ball at the spares. So many of them opt to use different balls at the spares. Hard and straight.
So a spare up for Pencak, who has been steady here in game number 2. Opens up a 26-pin advantage, courtesy of a double in the 5th and the 6th. We'll be back with, yes, and peering through Mr. Ozio and Mr. Pencak is Dave Swagel, the general manager here at Red Carpet Lanes.
Had an outstanding tournament this week. He had a good pro-am and good attendance. Was very pleased. He just wants an outstanding championship round here tonight.
Well, they had better than 1,000 people participate in their pro-am. I think they had like 500 junior bowlers. It says a lot for the Wisconsin Bowling Proprietors Association. They've taken this tournament in hand along with LaMode and made a marvelous event here in Green Bay. Ozio, more speed, not a good result, and it's lost in space right now for the Wizard of Oz.
Just a pure execution. He's just not hitting his target. It's either wide or left. Not a big target, but he's just not hitting it.
It's amazing last week in game number 2 when Westlake breezed past Warren Nelson, who felt like he bowled a pretty good game, ended up with 148. But it seems like game number 2 in the summer finals is the low point, and then it starts to get better scoring as we move along.
Lisa, his wife, looking on, and she can keep score, knows that he is in trouble. If he's going to do anything, he's got to start striking right now.
212 is best possible score.
All right, a little better shot there. And again, he picked up the speed a little bit. Stopped trying to pussyfoot around with that ball and baby it. we see the replay right here. Watch the 2-pin. Go to the sideboard. Come over and just give a little love tap to that 4. And David says, thank you. And Pencak says, if you could trip the 4-pin, so could I.
That was more of a karate chop of the 4. That thing came rifling out of there.
Fell, that's the big thing.
238 if Pencak goes off the sheet.
If he strikes right here, he really puts the pressure on Ozio. But if he doesn't strike here, Ozio still has life. If he doesn't strike here, the best Pencak could get would be 218. Perhaps his best shot of the night and leaves a solid 8-pin. We've seen that before. Our tournament leader, Dave Ferraro, left one a couple weeks ago. It was very costly to him.
Oh, my goodness. That is a brutal tap, the solid 8. And I think you got a letter in the office this week concerning the solid 8 pin, didn't you?
Hard and straight at the 8-pin.
Ozio, scenario concerning his efforts here is throw as many strikes as possible between now and the 12th.
But he must strike here. Oh, another big break. Trip that 4-pin out of there. Keeps him in the match. Keeps him in the match. Watch the 2-pin. I think it's the bottom of the 2. The butt of the 2 gets the 4. And he's watching it. No way. Oh, yes!
A reprieve from the 2-pin. This one changes the match a little bit. He leads, or I should say trails by 16.
And cut it to 6 with one more here. Will they get up? They got up, but not the 10-pin. Very professional shot, but it just didn't quite finish enough. Had to have that one, Denny. Had to have that one.
Good effort, and there you see the despair written all over his face. A little warm out there under the lights this evening.
So the solid 8-pin is apparently not going to cost Jim Pencak.
Well, I guess that's a positive note. You hate to see any player get beat in the championship round appearance leaving a solid 8.
Yeah.
And
Ozio with a strike will finish with 191. Pencak would need 7 pins. There's a 10-pin. See, a relaxed shot that doesn't matter. You get those fingers in the shot, the pressure, not quite the same release, and the 10-pin tells you that.
so an open in the 6th, but a nice double in the 8th and the 9th for Ozio. Shoots 191, and there you see pretty much the story for Pencak. Keep it out of the channel and hit the head pin.
That's enough right there. He's a winner. Doesn't matter whether he makes it or not.
Pencak eyeing the scoreboard, realizing that his next opponent will be 6'2" Ron Palombi Jr. out of Erie, Pennsylvania. And if he's lucky enough perhaps to get by that match, then he'll take on Dave Ferraro for the championship of the $125,000 LaMode Classic. Liz happy with the effort and realizing that hubby Jim is going to get a chance to bowl at least one more game in this one. Plus, I guess like any other player, he's had a couple of games to get lined up on the championship round pair. 204 to 191. Ozio exits and collects a check worth $5,500 for the week's work, and that's leaving David now just shy of $50,000 for the season. So coming up next, a feature on the tour's leading money winner, Mike Aulby, who has already collected better than $280,000 here in 1989.
Who
does Mike Aulby fear the most on the Pro Bowlers Tour? None other than Mike Aulby himself.
When I get out there on the lanes, as long as I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, and I pay attention to what I'm doing on my lane and what I'm bowling, I can handle any situation out there. When I start board watching or watching other scores, what everybody else is doing, I'm in trouble. I'm my own worst enemy. If I pay attention to what my game's doing, I'll be fine.
And Aulby's been doing just fine this year, leading the tour with a record $282,000 and 4 titles. Aulby got his bowling start thanks to an understanding older sister who let him tag along when she bowled in her high school bowling league. Mike joined the PBA Tour in 1978 and has won a singles or a doubles title in 8 of his 11 years on tour. Yet he readily admits that last year was a tough one and he had to take 3 months off.
I had won a tournament last year, but it was like once I finally won the singles tournament, it was the first one I'd won since, I guess, 85 when I was bowler of the year, and I felt like, all right, I finally won again, and it was like, it's kind of a letdown, and I continued to bowl, but my head just wasn't there, and I'd be 100, 200 under, and I didn't care, and that was probably the most discouraging part, that I wasn't bowling very well, and it didn't bother me.
This year's been more satisfying. Aulby did get off to a slow start, cashing in only 5 of his first 7 events. But then he got some good news from his wife, Tammy. Mike was going to be a father. Aulby went on a tear, winning the Budweiser Open and the U.S. Open in a span of 3 weeks. Whether it will continue this fall depends on the baby's birth date.
Tammy's due right in the middle of Rochester, the first weekend of fall, and yeah, I don't want to miss that. There's other tournaments, but there's only one time for your first child, and so we're going to go through the whole thing together. And it's a lot of fun.
Many tournaments is playing down the center, keeping the ball.
With more than $250,000 in the bank already this year, the Aulbys have a good head start on their baby's college education fund. And although the money is nice and he always hopes for more, his true motivation lies elsewhere.
The money is, for me, I'm out here and I've been out here 11 years, and obviously you have to have the money to survive no matter what career you're doing. But the money is actually the least of my worries. I enjoy winning the titles and the trophies. That's the thing for me. After that trophy's still there, but the money's long gone by the time, when you look 10 years down the road.
What's going to happen tonight?
Coming up on ESPN, the GTE U.S. Hardcore Championships being held in Indianapolis Saturday and Sunday. There you see the times for the live action. Boris Becker, the defending. Meanwhile, though, we're back in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Red Carpet Lanes semifinal game of the $125,000 LaMode Classic. Pencak and Palombi Jr.
And everybody's choosing to finish on lane 15, and it seems to be the tougher of the 2 lanes.
Jimmy Pencak has already defeated Tony Westlake and David Ozio.
That shirt of his is just changing colors. Brooklyn doesn't carry this time.
Waves it off. Not happy with that toss, but he'll have to regroup. It's amazing. It seems to take him 2 or 3 shots on the left-hand lane to get back to hitting the pocket, but by the late stages of each of the matches, he's been able to do so, averaging .212 thus far on the championship round pair. And throughout the week, he averaged .234.5 on lanes 15 and 16.
Well, we said at the top he needed to stay away from the open frames, and he's only had 1. So.
But as you mentioned, he has utilized every inch of the pocket on both lanes to throw some strikes.
Well, that's the type of ball he throws. He is a very alive ball. That ball just backed away at the pocket. It's amazing. As much hook as Ron Palombi throws, that ball did not finish 1 iota.
Boy, at about 45 feet, it looked like the angle was just about right. The ball was turning over, started to flip, and you're right, it was deflection city, and he leaves the bucket on 16.
First shot since back in January on television. You got a tough spare like this. He'll probably throw very hard and straight at this, I would think. Exactly what he did. A little extra loft there, thumb and fingers. As you see, very upright stance. Steps, pretty good size step. Ball comes right down early at this point. Now he catches up at this point. Again, that ball's almost early, no slide. Interesting timing when you study it under the replay. Now watch the spare ball. Look at how far he got that ball out of lane. 8, 9, 10 feet. somewhere there. No hook at all. All 4 pins with the ball.
Luckily, it bounced first on the maple and then on the pine, right? Got all of that one right through the nose, and it leaves the 3-6. So a couple of shots that he'll have to make adjustments on in the third and the fourth.
Pair is just not easy, Dan. The ball is hooking soon, quickly, too early. When you make the adjustment, it doesn't come back, and interesting, Jim Pencak is doing the exact same thing in this game that he did in the last game. He's asking for a re-rack here in the second frame when he is not working on a strike. The reason I believe that that's unusual is because usually these guys save the re-racks until they're going for that double. They don't use it up on a single strike because you only get 2.
Well, I guess there's no time like the present to get started, though, huh?
I guess that's what he's thinking right now. Worked for him last game.
Plus, maybe he feels like the right-hand lane is the better of the 2 lanes. If he's going to strike and get started, it'll be on lane 16.
That could be. The rack wouldn't have mattered there as he kicks out and leaves the 4-6-7. And we were just talking about the open frames. He's been staying away from them. Last time he didn't. See the ball hooking right through the heart of the pins. That's 4-6 land. And he gets somewhat of a break and knocking a couple of pins out, but hard and straight. Nothing kicks out. Come on, Jim, she said.
Well, he's bounced back from adversity before. He's already won twice here this evening. Now finds himself down by a dozen in the early stages of the semifinal.
His only comfort is that Palombi didn't hit the pocket on either shot, his first 2 shots, so. Better shot.
That lane conditioner must really be moving around out there because this is game number 3 for him on this championship pair. You'd think he'd be able to hit the pocket with the opening shot, wouldn't you?
You'd think so.
Yeah. Stands to reason. Now let's see if Palombi fine-tunes his game a little bit here on the right-hand lane.
He did make the adjustment, moved the board to the right, and again, the ball appeared as if it can be solid and kind of faded at the back end and left that weak 10. If his ball's fading, I'd hate to see what my ball would do on those lanes.
Be a fall-away jumper for sure. Palombi hits the pocket on the right-hand lane, but still no success as far as strikes are concerned.
There's a Miller moth flying around by the foul line, and he's saying, I want interference, he said.
A Miller moth?
Yeah.
Were you a biology major in college, or?
That's what we used to call them in Colorado, Miller moths. Maybe it's just a moth.
All right, okay. 11 pins now for Palombi. The unusual thing about his game, I think, Mike, is what happens to his arm swing on the way back. Starts with the ball in the middle of his body, kind of wraps it around, then straightens up on the way through.
Curls that backswing behind his back. He does a lot of things that I wouldn't teach, but he makes them work for him. I guess it's because he's the youngest of our 5 finalists tonight.
Has tremendous athletic ability.
Breaks it down, leaves only the 5-8. Searching for his first strike in this match, but still leads by 9 pins.
I guess the key word in this match would be patience. Don't make the big mistake.
Keep the ball in the fairway and hope for the best. See, he moved over there for the spare and it hooked right away.
So confusion right now sets in here in the semifinal game, and it's a 9-pin lead for Ron Palombi Jr. We'll be back with more right after this.
And we're going to get another unusual shot as we look at Jim Pencak finishing on lane 15 and Ron Palombi on 16, both of them right at the same time. You see no slide for Palombi. The ball behind the hip. Look at the ball at that point now. How's he getting it through there? Somehow it misses his hip. I like Palombi's follow-through better than Pencak's. Pencak has a tendency to come in with that follow-through a little bit and then back, where Palombi goes right straight through it and trusts every shot.
That looked like a photo finish to me. Can't win by a nose in that one, can you?
Pencak got a few more strikes in that game than so far we've seen in this game.
Ooh, good acceleration right through the bottom of the swing, and the solid 9 stands. A twirl by Pencak, and he's not pleased with what happened there.
And I could just read their mind, you know. They're saying, hey, I got no back end as it is. The ball won't finish at the back end, and yet it leaves the solid 9. Watch it cut right through there and chops the 5 straight off the 9. The pin doesn't come off. Yes. Oh, you rat.
So a pirouette for Pencak, and nothing but a 9-pin spare.
Pirouette for Pencak?
Yes. Bit of alliteration there.
I noticed that alliteration.
Thank
there,
you.
Dennis.
Didn't say whether you liked it or not. You said you noticed it. Well, okay. It's a 9-pin lead for Palombi, and if it were Jim Pencak right now, he would have penciled a strike in there in the 4th. More loft on the left-hand lane. He likes the result there. Well, maybe he's found out the secret.
Definitely seems that you got to get the ball out on that lane here. He's mad about that 9-pin.
I'd be a little steamed if I were him. That cost him a turkey.
Cost him the lead. I mean, he'd been in the lead by 11 pins if he carries that.
It was all Palombi's tournament here through the first 18 games. Then he shifted gears.
He keeps moving a little right, He finally got it up to get the strike. But he hasn't hit the 1-3 on lane 15 yet. Watch the loft here. See the ball behind the hip. The follow through. He trusts it, gets that ball well over the foul line, and just churns him up. Pin's never had a chance.
First strike for Palombi through 5 frames. Winner of this game takes on the top seed, Dave Ferraro.
Pretty. He just ripped through that with the fingers and trusted it all the way. His best shot of the night right there.
Clean release. The ball came off rolling instantly.
Watch this. See that heavy fingers there. Over about the 3rd arrow, out to about the 10th, 9th board. Knocks that flat 10 right out of there. Puts Pencak in a position that he has to strike. Loft. And strike.
Oh, that was Drill City. He stayed behind that one, really laid the heavy fingers to it.
One more, his wife says. She knows this game already. Watch that drilling in there. He's looking at the 10-pin. Yes, he got it. One more now for the lead.
Great body of a shot putter, wouldn't you think, or a discus man?
Yeah.
Very strong upper body.
Will it carry? Yes! We got a match.
So Pencak pivots and strikes twice and turns the tables on Palombi.
Watch it. As it drives in here, the 6-pin just gets the 10, and he's looking at it all the way. Will it carry? Come on. Come on. Yeah.
All carry, and now this one's a 1-pin match. We'll be back with the conclusion after this.
The ABC Executive Secretary Treasurer just took over recently.
That's right. Down from Greendale, the Milwaukee area, to spend some time with the bowling fans here this evening. And they've been treated here to an excellent semifinal game. Ron Palombi Jr. and Jim Pencak going at it right now, and we're in the latter stages. It's a 1-pin lead for Pencak. than never.
Palombi pummeled these pins.
I thought you were going to say he punished him, but obviously you wouldn't want to use that. So Palombi turns one more time, and both players now working on 3 baggers. Ooh, much more direct angle to the pocket. He trips out the 4, and that's the break of the week for Palombi in the 8th.
Great break. He had given up on that shot, Dan, all the way through. He'd given up. He thought it was going high, and it is high, but still he gets the trip 4. Pencak asked for a re-rack on lane 16. The last time he asked for a re-rack was in the 2nd frame, and he 4-6'd.
Nearly left the Greek church. Got some help, and that was the end of that.
Doesn't look quite as confident now. But he sure was. Boy, he threw that pretty. Down to 9 pins. He's got a strike on this next shot, then.
So both players now with 4 consecutive strikes as we head now into the 9th. And I know that my good friends Jeff Mraz and Dick Grand, the sponsor of Jim Pencak, are probably right at the edge of their chairs at this point.
And this is the biggest shot of the week right now for Jim. Will it make it? Yes! And Jocelyn Jim whipped him right out of there. See that 6 pin, snap that 10 out of there as his reaction to it. Back in the lead by 1. No, soft and high, and which one was going to crack first, and it looks like it's Palombi.
For a moment, it looked like the ball might hold and stay in the 1-3, but disaster strikes Palombi in the latter stages of this one. Going to loft it hard, try and kick a pin out of the back deck, and it won't work. So Palombi with a critical error late in this one tries to take a look at the chances now, and the chances are slim and none. Slim just left town. He's down 16 as he heads into the 10th. If he would strike out, he could shoot 220.
Which would force Pencak to mark in the 10th frame.
Many matches have been won or lost in that situation.
Still alive, barely. And Ron ricochets this head pin over to the sideboard and back to get the 10.
Little gentle nudge. A real test of your intestinal fortitude to come back from a major mistake in the 9th to double up. Now he forces Pencak to at least mark in the 10th frame to move on to the championship.
He's just so upset with himself. He made good shots all the way through, 4 strikes in a row, finishes here with 3, 7 out of 8, and it may not be enough.
Yeah, you're right. A beautifully bowled game after the adjustments through the first 4 frames, but it might not be enough.
219, well-bowled game.
Now let's see if the frustration this year continues for Ron Palombi Jr., who has already qualified for 14 top 24 finishes. As we mentioned, only his second appearance in the championship round. And Pencak, who is perspiring profusely, tries to hang on in this one.
Pull it home. He says, all right, I can make the 4-pin, and he needs to make it. Hard and straight at the 4-pin, hits it dead center, and needs 5 pins. Stay behind the line, hit the head pin. 5 pins, and he's a winner.
Well, Red Carpet Lanes has been a great place for Ron Palombi, and also kind of a burial ground as well. 2 years ago, he and Les Schisler lost in the 10th frame of the Touring Pro Doubles here when they were top seed, and tonight he's bowled an excellent game and is probably going to come up short one more time.
And Pencak backs off. Doesn't want to make any major mistakes right now when he's got the match won. That's enough.
More than enough for Jim Pencak of Mayfield Heights. Palombi with the congratulatory offering for Ron Palombi here at Green Bay this week. $7,000 to his credit, 224 to 219. So the man from Mayfield Heights advances to the title game. And for the second time this year, he'll try and step into the PBA winner's circle right after we take a look. Welcome to this week's edition of the Bowling News, brought to you by Pizza Hut, maker of pan pizza that's winning the hearts of America. And welcome back to Red Carpet Lanes in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where we're just a couple of minutes away from the championship round final game in the $125,000 LaMode Classic. But before we get to the championship game, the first order of business here this evening is to get updated on the PBA's top 10 leading money winners list. Let's take a look. Mike Aulby remains number 1 despite a rather disappointing summer for the 19-time PBA champion. Del Ballard Jr. remains in the hunt, while last week's Wichita Open winner Amleto Monticelli has moved into the number 3 position. Pete Weber, who will be returning to action next week in Buffalo, along with Jess Stayrook, round out the top 5. The current PBA Player of the Year, Brian Voss, a finalist here this week, is 6th on the 89 list, while tonight's top seed, Dave Ferraro, regardless of his performance here tonight, will crack the $100,000 barrier for the 2nd straight year. Randy Peterson, who has just returned from a 3rd-place finish over in Japan, along with Tony Westlake and Walter Ray Williams Jr., fill out the top 10. Bowling made an impressive debut in this year's U.S. Olympic Festival. As a matter of fact, all 9 sessions for the bowling competition were sold out, and the only sport out of 39 which was able to do so. Some terrific performances there. Winners of the coveted match play portion, which consisted of 12 games, were Linda Norrie of Concord, California, and Don Breeden of Dakota City, Iowa. It was an especially rewarding week for the 20-year-old Norrie, who also went on to capture 3 other medals. Other superlative performances were turned in by Debbie McMullen of Denver and Brad Briggs of West Palm Beach, Florida. McMullen finished atop the stack in the singles competition, while Briggs helped lead his team to the gold medal. Now here's a look at the rest of this year's medal winners from the U.S. Festival. Week now might be an opportune time to help out my old friend Dick Weber, the regional director of the Midwest, and check in on the latest results from the Midwest region here in 1989. John Odrabanek came up a winner over in Cedar Rapids, while Steve Jaros finished atop the heap in Decatur. Dale Traber also added a Midwest regional title to his PBA resume, while Pete Weber and Leroy Bornhop also came away victorious in St. Louis and in St. Charles. In a row in the championship round. Johnny Petraglia, the current president of the PBA and a PBA Hall of Famer. And John, let's look back to 1971 when you set the record. What was going through your mind back then?
Greatest feeling in the world, Denny. I felt like I could reach out and touch my spot. I had reached the point, I guess after about 3 weeks, I reached the point where I was in such dead stroke that I was more than 100% sure I was going to strike. I had reached the point where I had already struck, and I just had to let the ball go so that everybody else knew it.
All right, so you can relate right now to what Tony Westlake is going through. 4 consecutive appearances in the championship round. He has to be drained both mentally and physically.
Well, I think he's drained mentally and physically. However, at the moment of truth, like last night when he had to win the game to make the championship round, he won spare 6-bagger. You could tell by his face he knew he was going to do it. The crowd knew he was going to do it, and more importantly, his opponent knew he was going to do it too.
The question I have to ask, is it more difficult to make 5 appearances in the championship round here in 1989 as opposed to 1971?
Well, I think the great bowlers in 1971 were as good as the great bowlers that are around today, but today I think the talent is a little bit deeper and much more knowledgeable bowlers out there today. I think that it's a little bit tougher for Tony if he's going to make 5 in a row than it was 18 years ago.
All right, let's talk about the record, perhaps tying the record. If he would survive the match play portion next week in Cheektowaga, he would end up 5 consecutive appearances. Will you be rooting for him in the background next week if he does have a shot?
Oh, absolutely. Tony's a great bowler. He's really a help to our sport, and records are made to be tied and broken, and I hope he does it. I'll root for him.
Well, 10 years from now, I hope you make 5 consecutive appearances on the Seniors Tour.
Thanks, Denny.
And thanks to John Petraglia for joining us this evening on the Bowling. I certainly didn't realize they were giving away the Hope Diamond and $18,000 for first place this week, Mike, but what a dazzling trophy for whoever wins between Pencak or Ferraro, and the fans, I think, are ready for the championship game.
And Ferraro's made an interesting move right away. He's chosen to finish on the right lane, which means that he's saying to his opponent, if I have to get up in a double and throw it in the 10th and throw a double to win this tournament, I feel I can do it. And he's waiting for everybody to settle down and sit down. And
excellent concentration there by Ferraro, obviously disturbed by some technicians to the right, but nevertheless held off, remained composed, and struck.
very vocal crowd here tonight.
Well, there are some Pencak fans and some Ferraro fans on hand.
Soft and high. It almost looked like he was nervous right away. Just, here it is. We're bowling for the title now. He's got to get back into the flow of the game, back into the concentrating on what he needs to do to strike and not be thinking about the championship.
Leaves the 3-6 on the right-hand lane, and thankfully so. That went almost right through the center of the nose.
Hard and straight, no trouble.
Yeah, I guess there's no other feeling like the feeling of bowling for a championship.
Just winning it.
And once you learn how to win, you never forget.
That's true.
Well, he has finished 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd in his career. He's yet to finish 1st.
So he wants to hit for the cycle, huh?
Yeah, you bet. Complete the cycle.
Good loft that time. Will it make it? No.
Much more aggressive shot in the left-hand lane. 2-4-5 remains. Deep breath to summon the courage to shoot this shot.
Yeah, he doesn't want it open early to give Ferraro a chance to run away. And makes it easier. See how hard he threw it? She says, all right. All right.
But your wife, Debbie, used to cheer like that?
She was a silent cheerer.
Yeah?
She was churning inside, though. It was like the duck.
Trying for the double down and wanting it badly, and another 10-pin for Dave Ferraro. That's been his nemesis in the championship round.
Hasn't it?
Boy, left 3 solid 10s when he was top seed just 2 weeks ago. Could not get a break.
Switches balls. No trouble with the spare. Familiar style of Dave Ferraro. Holds that ball right at the waist high. 5 steps. Pushes it out now on the second step. All right in time at this point. At the top, short backswing. Now watch the slide, or lack of it. Just a little bit. The heel goes down first in the loft, left arm out. Rips him apart.
He seems to like the left-hand lane maybe better than the right.
Told me at the break that he liked the right lane, so he struck twice on that one.
Well, 3 shots right in the pocket. I think he's the first player that's come on to the telecast here and done that in the early stages.
Well, he's talked about staying away from the open frames, and he's had 2 open frames, 1 split and 1 washout.
Cut that one short.
Oh, got the break.
You see him look at his elbow when he let that one go?
Yeah.
Turned it a little early, cut it short, and got a big-time break.
Watch it. It's trying to hold. Head pin hits the 2. 2 goes to the sideboard and gets both the 4 and the 7. Ooh, I didn't throw it too good, but it struck.
Now, possibly a key double, and he could lead in the match by 7. He trails by 3.
Hasn't made as good a shot as he made during the course of that 5-bagger in the last game yet. He stayed right behind it with good loft and extension and lift. Will it make it? Yes! There he is. He's back.
Critical strike as Ferraro mops the brow, realizing that he's in a dogfight here in the title match.
Interesting overhead shot. Jim Pencak on the left lane, Ferraro on the right lane. Both of them have a tendency to cheat that follow-through in. From that angle, it's hard to even recognize the bowler.
That's right, but you'll recognize Bob Lee and Larry Burnett on SportsCenter coming up next live at the conclusion of our $125,000 Limoges Classic. The big story in baseball today, the Cubbies with yet another victory.
Rolling right along.
Mm-hmm.
Will it carry? Yes. Drilled it in there.
Boy, he's made 4 very, very professional shots. And he now has a double, and he wrestles the lead from Pencak.
You don't say that he has ice water in his veins for nothing, I'll tell you. Ferraro is fearless.
He's really developed over the last couple of years, although 0-3 in the title match this year.
Yeah, he wants to make it 1 for 4. Bat 250.
You bet. Come back tomorrow and try again.
Ooh, breaks it down. It's a 1-pin match. As he leaves the 4-7. Left lane wants to creep high. Wants to hook just a little early. Where the right lane seems to hold pocket.
Quickly, cross lane. And a spare up for Ferraro. Nearing the midway point of the title game. Of course, riding on the line here as a re-rack is issued on lane 16 for Pencak. Should he win, a trip to the Firestone Tournament of Champions in Akron, Ohio, his first ever visit. He just lives right up the road.
He doesn't like this rack either, but he only has 2, and he's saving the last one. For the lead. Well, you hit them there, they all go down no matter how they're standing up there.
Pencak growling as he moves across the approach there. He wanted that one badly.
Watch this. Excellent loft. I mean, this is just drilled in the 1-3 from the moment he let it go. Perfect. All 10 in the pit.
Now the key, reduce that heart rate, relax, go out there and make the key shot.
You go up by 19. Will it make it? Oh, he thought he had it, and the 7-pin wouldn't cooperate.
Ferraro happy to see the 7-pin standing.
Relieved.
Pencak realizing how key that shot really was. Boy, he ripped it, didn't he?
He did rip it.
Didn't leave any of it home.
Hard and straight at the 7-pin, no trouble. Ferraro heads to the 6th frame, trailing by 8. Will it hold? Yep. He's got 16 just wired, baby.
Yeah, that's been flush city every trip.
10-pin and 2 flush strikes. Look at the loft. 5 or 6 feet out there, and it's just holding pocket all the way here.
Well, you make them disappear like that. When they all leave at the same time, you know you've done something special. It's kind of a race to the back of the pit. Key double here, though, would put him back up by a deuce.
High. Busted up, leaves only the 6-10. One more shot he has on that lane. He's got to make a better shot the next time.
Through the nose twice, switches to another ball there to shoot the spare. You're right. Had 2 opportunities after striking on the right-hand lane to double up, take the lead in the match. Wasn't able to convert on either occasion.
Asking for his last re-rack.
He works on the spare in the 6th, so obviously he feels like this is it right here. It's Kenny Loggins' time. If I don't strike here, I may not end up a winner.
Gives it right back.
Got too much of it as Liz laments that shot, and Jimmy with a pound on the thigh, realizing he might have made a major mistake there.
Ball just grabbed too soon, hooked right through the heart. And there we talked about the open frames.
No, 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 and it ends up a yes. So key now to get the count and move on. Forget about that shot. You can't worry about it now.
Trails by 6 with 3 frames to go. As you said, he's got to get it back. Regroup on lane 15 right now.
Heck, he could still shoot 232. That should be good enough to win.
Here it comes. Snaps him out there. I see he has a couple of words for it.
Chats a bit with the 10-pin on lane 15, but now he'll have to sit in silence and wait for Dave Ferraro to operate. Ferraro could shoot 238 if he takes it all the way off the board.
And there's a fly buzzing right around Dave. I saw it earlier. Tries to get it away, but it's a distraction. Somebody moved a chair right in the middle of his approach, but it didn't bother him at all.
A strike for Ferraro in a clutch situation. The left-hand lane has been the mystery lane for him on the last 2 shots. It's been through the nose. What does he do now adjustment-wise?
I think he goes to his strength, which is just a little more loft, a little more speed, and direct a rocket to the pocket.
He said, "Come on, ball," and he has a few words for lane 15. So both players jousting at this stage. Ferraro with a mammoth double in the 9th.
Big shot right here. Sets himself up for the 10th frame, puts the pressure squarely on Pencak, hits it thin, gets the old wall shot. Pencak must strike on this ball. 16 down, can cut it to 6. Fudged a little bit left.
Plenty of room.
Oh, pretty shot. Down to 6 pins now.
Back and forth they go. Ferraro out of one hot seat and on to the other.
Well, Pencak has answered the call all night long. He's responded to every pressure situation, and now it's the greatest pressure. A non-winner stepping up in the 10th frame with a chance to take the lead with a strike on this ball. There. Oh, it's there.
Ferraro trying not to let the emotion show, but you know deep down inside he has to be concerned.
Well, there's nothing he can do. As a man makes a quality shot like this under that kind of pressure, he can't throw it any better than that. Puts him up by 4. One more makes it 14.
If he strikes here, Ferraro has to double.
Will it hold? Will it hit it?
Yes! The 4 into the 9. Liz is happy. Pencak is ecstatic. And Ferraro towels off and realizes he's going to have to take it off the sheet.
Watch it. Creeps high. The 2 pin goes to the sideboard, hits the 4. The 4 wiggles, wobbles, falls, and hits the 9, and it falls. Pencak watches it all the way. What's going to happen? Hit it, please. Oh, you. Thank you.
The fist to the fans who are appreciative of the marvelous effort in the 10th frame. 231 for Ferraro. It's as simple as this: a double and 4, and he wins again.
Will it make it? No. David didn't respond, and Pencak has won.
So a kiss for the champion, the raised fist, the cheers of victory in the eyes of Jim Pencak, the winner of the LeMode Classic.
This is
Took him 9 years to win, and it was a sweet victory for Jimmy Pencak. Alan Geeler, the vice president of LeMode.